An entitled old jerk calls me lazy after I refuse to cut his grass for free, even though I've never met this guy before in my life. And I am seriously blown away by this guy's entitlement, as well as his expectation that I would work for free. Here's what happened. So I've worked in customer service for a while, and sure, I've had some old entitled jerks over the years, but I really try not to assume the worst because of someone's apparent age. I've had a lot of negative experiences with people of all ages. But today, however, I experienced something that I think is almost a perfect example of the negative stereotype of an older entitled person. I'm 27 years old and I bought my childhood house 4 years ago. It was very run down and I put a lot of effort into it. The subdivision that I live in was built in the mid-60s and an expansion was done in the mid-70s and early 80s. Most of the people here are retired and either bought the house when it was new, moved in 20 to 30 years ago, or inherited the house from a family member. I work full-time and remote, but I go for a walk in the mornings, afternoons, and during lunch. One walk around the entire subdivision results in a circle of about 1.8 miles, so I try to do 3 to 5 loops a day if possible. I've been exercising for 4 years in the same routine, often 5 to 6 days every week except for winter. And you know what? Usually no one bothers me, but sometimes I have scary encounters with dogs or with teenagers trying to mess with me. And usually it's just them insulting me while I have my headphones on, but when I take off my headphones and say, "I heard that," they end up just leaving me alone. So anyways, today I was on my lunch break and I decided to go on a walk like I've done for about 4 years now. I throw my headphones on and I get about 1.5 miles done in my circle. I then see a house that has a younger man on the porch, a heavyset woman cutting grass, and an older guy cutting grass on the same front lawn. Now this lawn isn't very big and there is a house right behind him, so the backyard couldn't possibly be that big. I have a relatively large yard in my area and it takes me about 40 minutes to cut the grass and to weed it all myself. And mind you, that guy had somebody who could help him out. Well, he stops the mower as I walk by and I can hear him talking, so I take my headset off. He says to me, "If you want to walk, why don't you just take this mower and cut the rest and take out 2 birds with 1 stone?" Now at this point I assume he's joking, so I just laugh, but then he starts mocking my laugh and mutters under his breath about how kids are lazy and starts cutting his grass again. Now I'm getting close to 30. I work full time, I have my own house and my own maintenance to do. I am still finishing up grad school and I have a social life. My time when I walk is my me time. It's there to relax and better my own life. I literally mind my own business and he actively reached out to try and get free labor for me and was upset when I refused. His adult son, or whoever was clearly on the porch smoking, was clearly not helping or even being a helper in the slightest. Like, why does this guy seriously think that a stranger should be obligated to cut his grass for free? Do old people like this really feel this entitled that they can just boss younger people around for free labor? Do they not understand that walking for leisure with music or a podcast is fun and completely different than manual labor? Does he really not understand that an adult with life responsibilities doesn't want to cut his grass for free after jogging a mile in the sun? I'm honestly completely blown away and I hope I never have to deal with this guy ever again. Yeah, that guy was completely out of line. It's ironic that he's like, wow, kids these days don't want to work, and yet he's the one who doesn't want to work and cut his own grass. Like, does he seriously not see how hypocritical and stupid he's being right now? He is literally complaining about the very thing that he doesn't want to do himself. Like the fact that he tried to stop you, a random stranger, and get you to do his job that he clearly didn't want to do, in my opinion, is like the epitome of an old person who's super entitled. And the fact that he thought you would do it for free is all the proof that you need to blatantly show that this guy is super entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen demands that me and my husband return a shopping cart that somehow ended up on the sidewalk in front of our neighbor's house. She even went as far as claiming that we must have been the people to do it and that it was our responsibility to return it and do the right thing. Here's what happened. So my husband and I live in a suburban neighborhood surrounded by entitled old people. And this is mostly because so few people our age actually own a home. And honestly, about 90% of them haven't been that bad, and they really just keep to themselves for the most part. It is, generally speaking, a quiet street. So anyways, randomly a grocery store shopping cart showed up on the sidewalk of our neighbor's house. It was very odd, but school's out, so maybe it was just a prank from a few streets over. We figured that whoever lifted it would either come back for it, or it would get picked up on trash day. While it was pretty strange, I'm still a firm believer in minding your own business. Well, my husband husband was walking the dogs on the opposite side of the road when out storms the entitled old Karen. We've never met this woman, but she parks on an adjacent street since it is a corner house and must enter that way too. So basically, we've never crossed paths. She then goes up to my husband and demands to know why there is a shopping cart there. Now, it's important to know that my husband is not a confrontational man, so he just kind of stared at her for a second before saying, "How should I know?" She then points over at our house and demands to know if he lives there. He says to her yes, and she says, "Well, the landlord wouldn't do this, so you had to take it back." Now, when the entitled Karen said that, my husband was stunned. This woman starts telling him that since her landlord clearly didn't park a shopping cart there, we must have been the people to do it, and that we needed to return it to the store because, according to her, it might get washed into the street when it rains and roll down the street and hit her car. She also said that the other tenant couldn't back his car out of the driveway and that it's now our responsibility to do the right thing, even though the shopping cart was literally 30 feet away from his driveway. Now, at this point, my husband told her that if she wants to play Nancy Drew, she's welcome to do that, but he has better things to do. And before he even walked off, some random truck pulled up, threw it in their truck bed, and then left without a word. And the look on her stupid red face was completely priceless. And after that, I will never understand some people's entitlement. Yeah, that's a really weird thing to assume out of somebody that you've literally never met. Like the original poster and their husband have never met this lady once in their life. They've never had a side conversation or any kind of interaction at all. So for her to walk up and be like, "Ooh, you gotta get rid of that shopping cart, my landlord wouldn't do it," that's not only a really bad first impression, but it's also super weird to place it on the shoulders of people who had nothing to do with it. Like seriously, the original poster didn't do anything and somehow they're getting roped into this. So yeah, I completely agree with the original poster because this lady's entitlement was completely out of line. An entitled old jerk loses his mind when I pay with Apple Pay, all because he didn't think that it was real. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was checking out at Target today and I paid with Apple Pay. And this is basically where I tap my phone on the card machine instead of using my card, which is the usual way that I pay. Well, behind me, there's this entitled old jerk who's watching all of this go down, and he just about loses his mind at the sight of me paying with my phone. He looks at me and says, Hey, what did you just do with your phone? No card or nothing. Did you even pay for your stuff?" He then actually steps forward and tells the cashier that I didn't put a credit card in the machine. I finally turn to him and I say, "It's Apple Wallet. My credit card is on my phone." The cashier then chimed in and explained a bit more, and then the entitled jerk, still in shock, said, "Well, how is that even real? How does your card reader know it's your phone and that you're the one using it? How does it know it should connect to your bank? My bank never told me about this." He then told the cashier that this obviously can't be legal and that you shouldn't be allowed to use your phone to pay for things. He was furious that I could apparently just wave my phone over anything and then just walk out free as if I didn't pay for anything. He went on to say, "That's not right. That's not real. I'm sick of cheats. I pay for stuff that I want. I mean, come on." And this guy just went on and on. At this point, I was handed my receipt by a very amused cashier and just started walking out. And this guy was still completely worked up, asking the cashier how many times a day people pull this stuff on him. And overall, I'm honestly still blown away that he doesn't know what Apple Pay is. Yeah, there are literally so many different ways you can pay for stuff, it's not even funny. So the fact that this guy really was getting worked up over someone paying for something with their phone, that's not only hilarious to me, but it's also like, well, yeah, of course people can do that. So for this guy really to try and narc out the original poster and try to get them in trouble for something they didn't do, that in my opinion is super obnoxious and completely uncalled for. My crazy entitled mother is constantly causing problems in my life and has treated me like garbage for the majority of my childhood as well as my adulthood. And now on the cusp of my son's birthday, she's demanding that she be allowed to see my son for his birthday and that I need to stop being crazy and let her back into my life. But after all the things that she put me through, I am now at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my mom is incredibly entitled, very awful, and very demanding. And when it comes to the last time that I dealt with her, she was mad at me for not reading her mind and inviting her over to my place after she ordered me to come get her leftovers. Now, I couldn't do it and she just snapped. The pent-up anger snapped in me and I stopped reaching out. And that was on April 30th. I had an appointment with my psychologist who told me to take a break from the situation and to concentrate on myself and see how I felt about it all. Well, Mother's Day was less than 2 weeks later on the 12th of May. I posted about a few of the past Mother's Days that I had with her and how demanding she was of me in those times. It felt good to rant for a little bit, and in the end, I didn't reach out to her and she didn't reach out to me. It was peaceful with no exceptions, but She, however, wasn't happy. She ranted at family that I didn't wish her on that day, and that made me a bad daughter. She complained about how selfish and ridiculous I was being, and how she did not understand what she did so wrong. Now, nobody told me anything about it. They were all gossiping amongst themselves, and that's just as good for me. I prefer that over dealing with flying monkeys. Now, on the 13th, my husband received a text message from my mom calling us cruel, with us deciding not to answer. And on the 15th in the afternoon, my mom texted to ask me how long I would punish her, and that she was sorry that I was angry. She wanted explanations and that she loved me. And that night at 11:25 p.m., she texted me that she would come to see me. And when she said that, it really stressed me out. She did not come to see me on the 16th, and I was anxious all day, as I usually don't do well with confrontation, and that's because I have autism and I usually just shut down. My husband asked me to keep all cameras on during the day just in case, as he wanted video evidence if she did show up. When he came back from work, he basically said screw it and took our son and went to buy new locks for the house. He installed them that same night, and he actually took our son with him in case she did show up, because I didn't want my son to be around my mother. On the 17th, my husband got a call from my brother. My brother wanted to know what was going on because he was receiving multiple calls daily about my mother's side of things and wanted to get my husband's side. My husband asked for a minute as he was at work. He called me up and asked me what he should say. I told him to tell my brother that it was none of his business, but that our mom was well aware of what she did wrong, as I told her, and that she had not apologized. So my husband called my brother back up and passed on the message. Now, I wasn't even contacted about any of this, and my anxiety wasn't much better as I really was spiraling. On the 18th of May, while my husband was trying to sleep off a migraine, my mom showed up out of the blue. She texted me that she was in front of the house, and that got me really angry. I had to wake my husband, who didn't look like he should be walking around, ask him to bring our toddler in his playpen to keep him away from windows, and confront my mom. My mother parked out of earshot of our Ring camera, and my husband is certain that she did this on purpose, and I kind of agree with him. She was, however, inside of our doorbell camera, our front yard camera, my neighbor's camera, and quite a few of my neighbors who were out and about. And that's all to say that people I know would have interfered if I had yelled. Now, when I came out there, she was acting all sad, as if she didn't know what she did. Well, I just confronted her. I told her that I couldn't read minds. I told her she was always expecting me to do that, but she denied it. I pulled out quite a few examples, and I told her she was always asking too much of me, but she just denied it. So I gave her some more examples. And then she asked if this made her a bad mom, and I told her yes. But it wasn't nearly as bad as when she would get physically aggressive with us when we were kids, even though she literally denies ever doing that, stating that it was just moments of craziness. But you know what? Even her getting physical with us was not on the highest part of my list of why she was a bad mom. Another reason is her having illegal substances in the house, or even the time that her girlfriend tried to sell me illegal substances. She said to me, "You know she was only joking," but I told her no. She knew what she was doing, and she knew that it wasn't a joke. But regardless, those jokes should not be tolerated for your kid. I then told her that she was a bad mom because she never protected us from her partners. She didn't protect us from our dad or her ex-girlfriend. She literally protected us from nobody. But even then, she just denied all of it. I then brought up that in July of last year, her ex literally said he was going to do awful things to me and one of my brothers. And despite it all, she still refused to open any kind of police report, claiming that she didn't have enough proof. And yet, a few weeks later, when the very same woman threatened to beat her up, she did end up going and filed a police report. I reminded her that she knew that woman was insane enough to try and hurt someone who also has a baby. Well, when I said that, she just cried harder. And I mean, she was seriously sobbing. I then told her that she never protected me and that I can't trust her to protect my son. Well, when I said that, she suddenly stopped crying. She said to me, "You know I would protect him like I always protected you." And she seemed so offended that I wouldn't trust her with my son. I honestly at that point wanted to fight her. I wanted to break her nose. I wanted her to feel a sliver of pain that she put me through. I ended up walking back into my house, and she just stayed in her car, yelling about me not walking off and to act like an adult. But I just refused to answer her. I didn't give her a parting comment, I didn't look back, and I just walked in and locked the door. I then went and I hugged my son and my husband. She stayed parked in the street a few minutes and then sped off angrily when she realized that I wasn't coming back out. And you know what? I cried a lot. It really was a lot to take in how little she saw of her being a bad mom. Later that night, she sent me a text message. She said to me, "Your memories are really biased, except for the events at the store where where you and your siblings would get spankings. I never hit you guys. I did my best. I never said I had been perfect, but I always tried to protect you the best that I could. I'm sorry for being your mom, but now I'll just leave you alone. Take good care of yourself. And you know what? I just didn't answer. I spoke to my psychologist, and he told me that I have two choices because she would never change. I had to accept that this is who my mom will always be. So I either accept her in my life as she is, or I kick her from my life entirely. But you know what? My decision had already been taken, and I decided to go completely no contact. But you know what? I know she's not done yet, and she will do crazy stuff to get my attention, so I decided not to block her. No contact orders are very difficult to get where I live, and you need a lot of evidence, so I decided not to block her. Now, my psychologist wasn't sure she wouldn't reach out anytime soon, and honestly, I wish he was right. On the 22nd, my mom sent me another message. She told me to contact her when I'm done being psychotic, and she sent me 9 messages in all, but I still didn't answer. Now, the reason I'm posting this is because it's my son's birthday in a week, and she texted me basically saying, "Can I see my baby for his birthday?" And I'm seriously now at such a loss, and I now don't know what to do. Wow, your mom sounds like an awful person, and there's no way I would ever let her around your son. Like, seriously, think about it for a second. She clearly has never learned her lesson that she was an awful mom, and it seems like you put up with a lot of garbage throughout your entire childhood. Like, that is so unfair for you, and I honestly don't blame you for trying to keep that from your son. Like, she does not sound like a good influence in the slightest. So if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever stay in contact with her. She clearly just wants to do you harm and cause problems in your life, and you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. My clingy younger sister hates the fact that I'm bringing my boyfriend to our family vacation, as she claims that him being there is going to ruin her experience altogether and is now demanding that he doesn't go. Here's what happened. So I'm a 22-year-old female, and my younger sister, who's 16, has been pretty attached to me my entire life and has struggled to branch out in her own personal social life, which has made this attachment way worse. She is extremely shy with other people, but towards our family, she has a very short temper and is prone to angry outbursts. I started dating my boyfriend about a year ago when we met in his senior year of college, and we've been long distance for the majority of our relationship. He is my first actual serious relationship, and I love him a lot, but my younger sister has been pretty much adverse to me being in a relationship the entire time. I attend college close to my hometown, so whenever I would visit and come home, my sister would make it so clear that she hates when I text him, and that she also hates when I FaceTime with him. Once my attention couldn't be focused on her every waking second, things hurtled downhill, and she's called me a bad sister for FaceTiming him at night and for texting him throughout the day, which has been really exhausting. And yet, she still says that she is happy for me and likes my boyfriend, and that she hates the time that I spend with him. And if I'm being completely honest, this has put a large strain on our relationship. Besides that, my parents and extended family have embraced my boyfriend with open arms, and my sister will still try and begrudgingly pretend to be pleasant with him because he really is a great guy. My friends all love him, and I'm good friends with his friends as well. So now I'm home for the summer, and my family usually goes to the Philippines in July since my mom is Filipino. My boyfriend expressed wanting to come meet my family there, and my family said yes, and my sister would just silently nod or leave the room, but I assumed that she was at least tolerant to the idea. But I was so incredibly incorrect. About 3 weeks ago, when my sister found out that my boyfriend bought a ticket, everything became a nightmare. I'm talking like a full-on tantrum. She was screaming, crying, stomping, slamming doors. She was throwing things around, including my things. She was yelling at my mom, pulling literally handfuls of hair out, and basically just being inconsolable. She has yelled at me countless times, saying that I ruined her life and her vacation, and that I'm supposed to be going for her and not for my boyfriend. She has called me every single name: a terrible sister, selfish, stupid, an idiot, and so much more. It has literally been on and off angry outbursts this entire month. When she finally takes some time to cool off, a notification from my boyfriend will pop up on my phone, and it just starts all over again. And it's been like this for the entire month of May, pretty much. She says that she's angry because it was supposed to be a family vacation, but when I ask her why she didn't tell me that earlier, she just tells me that I'm the stupidest person alive for assuming that this would be okay. She also said that she needs my help socializing with our family in the Philippines, and I won't be able to do that with my boyfriend around. But I didn't even know that helping her talk was a responsibility that I had. I've tried to reassure her countless times that I will spend time with her, and that she can have fun in the Philippines even with him there. But she insists that she will hate it, and that I've completely ruined her Summer. When I try to apologize, her only response is to say, good, I want you to feel bad. She says the only solution is to tell him not to come, but then I said, well, I just won't be going either, which sends her back into a rampage. I've asked for advice from my friends with younger siblings, and even my friends who are younger siblings, and no one ever describes experiencing this. Has anyone dealt with this before? I've had dozens of conversations with her, but it all just goes nowhere. She's so angry that no conversation ever makes any progress, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, it seems like your sister's being completely unreasonable, and there is literally no point in continuing this conversation at all. Like, she's completely inconsolable. She's not accepting apologies, she's not seeing reason, and she literally admitted that she wants you to feel bad. And you know what? You don't deserve that in the slightest. You have every right to bring your boyfriend, and if this is how your sister's gonna act, then that is literally her problem and not yours. So if I was in your shoes, I would just start walking away and completely ignoring her, because you've tried to have conversations with her. You've tried to talk things out and reassure her that you're gonna spend time with her, but clearly that's not gonna be good enough. So if I was in your shoes, I would start locking my door and I would just walk away from her and avoid her completely, because the way she's acting is completely immature and so uncalled for. And in my opinion, you did not do anything wrong, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.